live, of course, tonight. We will be recording it, but
It's recorded. It's not streaming live.
correct. All right. Great. It being 6:02, I'd like to call the Senior Center Building Committee to order. I'm going to read into this. Pursuant to Governor Baker's COVID-19 orders, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 18, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Senior Center Building Committee is being conducted remote participation. No one in person attendance of the meeting of the public will be permitted, excuse me, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public will adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the link. Members of the public that would like to listen to the meeting while it's in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and entering meeting ID 873-4112-0597. Then pressing the pound sign and press the pound sign again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted. Press the *9 on their telephone keypad using the raise hand function on the Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that, despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide in real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. All right, I'm going to do a roll call. When I call your name, just say here. Diane Allen.
Here.
Paul Malorani.
Here.
Jack Holloway.
Here.
Teresa Manganelli.
Here.
Greg Bendel.
Here.
Terry Marciello.
Here.
Myself, George Hooper, I'm here. All right, so tonight we'll be interviewing two of our firms, Caitlin Architecture and Kalo Biek Associates. The first one will be Caitlin. Our first item is to go over the questions. I believe everybody should have received these. Does everybody have the 12 questions in front of him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to go through and now, if they're pretty clear, I don't know if anyone has any questions on them. What I'd like to do is go through and assign these questions to committee members, and these will be your questions that you'll ask of all the firms. All right. Any questions on that? We've done this previously on our other interviews, so we should all be familiar with it.
George, I don't have the questions.
Jack, I'm sending them to you right now.
Okay.
Okay. I'll start with Diane to see if she has any particular questions that she wanted to ask on here.
I would like to take number 5, George.
Okay. Paul, did you have any questions?
No, tell me what you need and I'll ask whatever you need.
Why don't we start you with number 1? We're going to go in that order
Okay,
as they are listed.
you got it.
All right. Jack, did you receive them?
Will I have to get out of the meeting to do this?
You have them on email, Jack.
An email? Okay.
Is it easier for us to read them off to you, Jack? Can we just give them the?
Yeah, give me question number 2.
On question number 2.
What is that?
How did the original cost estimate compare to the final cost of your last similar project? What led to the difference between estimate and actual?
I don't like that one.
You want a shorter one, Jack?
Is 3 easier?
3 is easier.
How about this one? How does your firm do, what does your firm do to ensure quality products and good workmanship? Is that good one?
Okay.
How's that one? I'll give you that one. Teresa, would you mind taking number 2?
Absolutely.
Okay. Greg Bendel. Would you
I'll take
take number 4?
Sure.
Terry, was there anyone in particular that you liked? I know we went over a lot of these.
I'm number 11.
You want number 11. I will take number 6 after Diane.
Hey, George.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got, what did your firm do to assure, what was the rest of it?
what does your firm do to ensure quality products and workmanship?
And workmanship.
Okay,
Okay, great, thanks.
easy enough. All right, Paul, I'm gonna go back to a number 7 for you.
Number 7, okay, got it.
Teresa, would you like number 8?
Sure.
Greg, number 9?
Sounds good.
I'll take number 10. And Jack, we might get to number 12 if we get there for you.
Okay.
That basically is the question that what makes your firm different from all the others, and why should we
Okay.
give it to you? Terry, I see you only have one here. If you'd like
Yes.
to. What's that? You're fine with
Yes.
that? You're okay with that?
Did you have something else that you want me to do?
No, that's fine. You could always, just like before, if there's any explanation or you'd like them to get a little bit more into detail on the question, you can speak up and you can ask it.
You
Now, if
can,
you remember,
you can ask a follow-up
correct.
based on their answer.
Now, we're gonna ask, you're gonna be assigned these questions for each of these interviews. So we ask them exactly the same way. They all get the same question. We did ask the firms to try to keep it to 20 minutes. Dan's gonna be our bulldog and kind of make sure so we can get through these questions. If you recall the last time we went through, there were some firms that would run over and we didn't get a chance to get to all our questions. So we're gonna try to make sure we get them all in place. Does anybody have any questions yet? Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a logistical question. I think last time we introduced ourselves briefly. Do you want us to do that again or opt not to?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. If you want, I'll call your name out just so you're not just kind of waiting for, a dead moment to kind of announce yourself. So we'll start off with the roll call. I'll just go Diane, Paul, Jack. We'll go that way.
Thank you.
All right. So tonight, Caitlin will be first. That's at 6:15. Tomorrow night we'll start at 6 o'clock. We won't have to deal with the question part. Dan, you got all that information I sent you today?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to reiterate that we have done a senior center with all 4 of the people that you have chosen.
I know you had stated that they're all decent firms.
Yeah, you can't make you cannot make a bad decision here. I really think you need to look at how they interact with you, and I think you need to look at their presentation quality. Imagine them in front of town meeting. If it got to the point where they had to do something in front of the public, I think those are important items for you to keep in the back of your mind as you're going through all 4 of these.
Right, there's a lot of information that's gonna be.
There's a
there.
lot of information and they're all gonna be a little bit different. They're not all gonna be the same.
Right, we'll be looking at their designs, their programs and what they apply. So it should be good.
Terry, you're on your way to a new center.
Woo-hoo!
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah, this is always the toughest part, I think, getting through it. Make sure, and the detail, the construction meetings, making sure everything gets through it. So just like our new high school. So something we can be proud of though in the end. I think it's a great process.
It'll all be worth it.
Been a long time coming, Terry.
Yep, yep.
Terry's gonna be exhausted when we're done.
We all are.
The seniors when we're done.
And I think
Well,
Terry.
Hey, Greg,
let me tell you, I'm gonna be the first senior walking through that door, okay? Because I'm the oldest of all of you, and I haven't got many more left, so.
Oh, I have a funny feeling I'll be seeing you walking through that door too.
I have a feeling I will too.
I'm not saying anything.
I have a,
Oh.
I have a feeling Jack will too.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna answer.
Okay. We just got 1 minute left.
Wow,
John,
we're really
are
on our game. That's good. All prepared.
John, do we have,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna let the first appointment in now.
hello, John?
Hey there, how you guys doing?
Doing very well, thank you.
So, this will be fun. This is one of my first Zoom interviews, so
Oh, very good. Very
let's
good.
see whether I can hold it together. Are we ready to go? Because I have a very brief slideshow.
Sure.
Is there
My
any,
name is George Hooper. I'm the chairman of the Senior Center Building Committee. And what
Hi,
I'll do
George.
first is I'm going to have each of our members introduce themselves, and then you can proceed with your presentation and do any introductions. And then we have a series of questions that we'd
Great.
like to ask. Okay?
okay,
All right, Diane?
I'm Diane Allen. I'm a member of the Permanent Building Committee. Lived in town 53 years and very actively involved with the Senior Center.
Paul?
Hi, John. Paul Malorani, member of the Permanent Building Committee. Diane, I wasn't prepared to do math tonight, but it's about 55 years for me in town, so.
Jack?
Jack Holloway, Permanent Building Committee.
Greg Bendel?
Good evening. My name is Greg Bendel. I have the good fortune of serving on the Wilmington Board of Selectmen.
Terry Marciello?
Hi, I'm Terry Marciello, Director of Elderly Services for the town of Wilmington for the past 23 years.
wow,
And-
impressive.
And also with us, we have Jeff Hull, our town manager. John O'Neill is hosting us on Zoom here, our IT director. We have Dan Pilata and Rob Tedesco.
Sure, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think we saved the best for last. We have Teresa's here as well.
Did I not
Teresa
say-
Manganelli.
Did I not say you, Teresa? Oh, sorry. Best
That's
for
all
last,
right.
Teresa
No.
Manganelli. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Teresa Manganelli. I'm the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, John, if you are ready.
Great, and I'm John Catlin with Catlin Architecture. And I'm going to, first of all, hit the green button here. And I will put up, is this right?
Hey, John, I'm gonna time you. We did say 20
Sure.
minutes. All right?
Yeah, I know, thanks,
I'll give
Dan.
you a 1 minute warning.
Oh, just shout at me, okay? What happened? Oh, Wait. Oh, down here. Okay, got it. I'm getting a little bit of help here. All right. So I always like to start out with the statement that we're the only species on Earth that actually protects and sustains and nurture our elders. And age is mostly a state of mind. And I always like to put this one up because in the old days, we used to think life was circular. We started life dependent and we leave life dependent. But actually the goal of our new senior centers and our new understanding of aging is to provide 3 key ways to help us age healthier: nutrition, socialization, and exercise. And if we are all successful as a team, the new Wilmington Senior Center will provide all 3 of these key issues. So I'm going to talk briefly about the sites. I want to address issues of safety, orientation, sun, views, outside opportunities in terms of trails, fields, and games, parking, key issue of circulating on the site without leaving, drop off, outside of traffic flow, expansion opportunities, existing former structures, ownership. And the goal here is to get indoor-outdoor options that help us connect the interior spaces to the exterior through windows, access doors, patios, games areas, walking trails. Elders need about 20 minutes of sun a day to help process vitamin D with calcium to strengthen bones. So getting outside is a really key issue, especially in our winter times up here. We also try and design our buildings, and you've probably seen it in our proposal, that we try and take cues from the city, town, and or neighborhood historical aspects to create what we call a harmonious and familiar structure and environment. So we go through a process of selection for sites. We look at 10 basic criteria, such as existing structures or geology and hydrology. And we do this by lining up the sites and then addressing each one of those issues and answer each site as to how each issue is dealt with, both the size of the site, existing structures, maybe hydrology, is there wetlands next door or not. Then we ask the team to rank each site, and we do it through a number system. -3 is strongly negative and +3 is strongly positive. And you can see how this works for existing structures, hydrology, and then the ranking. And once we add up those numbers, we come up with a solution, hopefully that is acceptable to all, but up for discussion. And in this case, the Main Street Center was the first ranked project. However, after some discussions, we ended up with site number 2. So this is a flexible process. It's somewhat subjective, but it's a very useful process of understanding the different sites. So obviously we have 4 sites. There may be a 5th one I noticed when I was reading the RFQ. Site number 1 is the Bazell Senior Center. We like this one a lot because it has a secondary road access for safe access for elders. The average elder, and forgive me if we have some older folks here like me, takes about 35 to 45 seconds to make a left-hand turn, more than an average driver into a parking lot. So a less busy street is really key to safety for our user group. This one is sloped for views to the park and surrounding area. It's got good opportunities for walking, parking opportunities to the north, good southern exposure. There were 2 existing structures, obviously the existing senior center and a former school on the site. But this is also perhaps a possible future site for town hall, which obviously would come up in discussion. Glen Road, site number 2. We like this a lot. Level, it's got good secondary road access, therefore it's safe. Walking opportunities, including what is an interesting wetland area that might be accessible for a boardwalk. Community play fields. Elders love watching their grandkids and other kids play. I met with a group of seniors at the senior center the other day, and I kind of threw out a question, what site do you guys like? They all preferred this location, so be aware. Also good views, existing structure in the site. Not always the best sun exposure, but I think we can deal with that one. Soccer field, interesting site, quite level, a little bit of movement down at the front, good solar orientation. However, Route 62 is there, and I can tell you, having driven that road recently, it was quite busy. There's a shopping center, a mall right across the street. There was an existing structure on the site. It's currently gone, but obviously that foundation area might be a concern. It's heavily wooded with wetlands at the rear. We looked at site number 4, the former church site. Secondary road access is pretty good. Level site, reasonably level. Walking and outdoor activities are available there. Existing structures on the site, how we deal with those, and ownership. I don't believe the town owns this site, from what I understand. So how do we look at these key site issues? There are some clear issues. This happens to be the Walpole South Street Center that we did for the town of Walpole just recently. And you can see we like to design, if we can, one way in and one way out. As we get older, drivers have a difficult time negotiating, passing each other. And we have a high concentration of elderly drivers at these centers, a little bit different than your shopping center or supermarket parking lot. So we'd like to be able to bring in people one way and take them out the other. We like to have a drop off, as you can see on this shot here, where it takes sometimes for a person who's a slow mover to take 4 or 5 minutes to get organized and out of the car. That could hold up traffic. So we always design our centers with a drop off area where other drivers can pass by. So recirculating on the site is really key. Having to leave the site and come back on after you drop somebody off or picking somebody up after coming out and getting in a car is a real safety issue for elders. We like to keep service separate from the entrance. We have handicap parking adjacent to the building, which is a key, so that elderly people who have walkers or dealing with a wheelchair or canes do not have to cross the drive area. Games and patio, wherever we can, we face them to the south. We're in New England. Southern light is really helpful. And it allows the use of those patio areas and game areas much longer through the season. In this case, we're very fortunate to have a recently restored rail trail for walking, and we have great views down to the Neponset River. Now, the other real critical thing here is Wilmington's opportunities. Programming really needs to be dealt with early on as we're looking at sites, so we can understand what kind of building, how large it will be, whether it's 1 story or 2 stories, will come out and have an effect on our selection for a site. We look at entry, transparency, the synergy of space, outside opportunities. We try to be as non-institutional as possible, providing covered porches and scaled covered areas. We like to lean towards the familiar, more residential feel and away from the institutional and monumental. The other issue that we look at in designing and programming is spatial hierarchy or adjacencies. This is something that's often difficult to achieve, but very rewarding when it happens. And we're going to look at a few options there. Program spatial links allowing viewing of other program spaces, open plan leading from arrival to reception to other program spaces without long hallways. I always like to use the coined phrase, collapsing the environment. Long hallways are a real barrier for user groups who have mobility issues. We classify our elders as go-goers, slow-goers, and no-goers. No-goers are wheelchairs, slow-goers are walkers, and go-goers are young, healthy seniors, and sometimes old ones like me. Flowing from reception to lobby, cafe, and lounge. So, and if we have to go 2 floors, we always like to have a strong, visible monumental stair that takes you up to the next level. So how do we achieve this? This is an example of a senior center which has a one-way in, one-way out, pass by and drop off. The drop off is right at a covered entry. And we have a 0 curb, flush curb for accessibility. A lot of our elders cannot even lift up 6 inches to a step. So this is fully accessible, key issue. Indoor-outdoor options, connecting our interior spaces to the exterior is really important. We do it through windows, doorways, getting out to patios. In this case, this patio did not yet have its furnishings, but you can see we have a performance stage which connects to the interior platform stage in the multi-purpose room. So in the wintertime, it performs inside. In the summertime, you can open it up for outside events. Bocce is another option for our senior centers. This is also in one of our centers. Pickleball courts. Pickleball is really hot. Almost every center I've worked on in the last 2 or 3 years have asked for pickleball courts. This one is exceptional. We have 4 outdoor courts. We have 3 indoor courts along with a basketball court and a volleyball court and an indoor raised walking track. So this is a very active senior center in the town of Longmeadow. The one that we did down in Lexington, Kentucky, table tennis is a really big deal. The nice thing about multi-purpose rooms with high ceilings is that we can have events where the ball can go up in the air and not hit the ceiling or the lights. Another nice thing about this is it shows our connections. Upstairs classrooms looking down, seeing activity in this room, or outdoor areas looking in or looking out to them. This is an event that I always love. It will move slowly on your computers, but it gives you an idea of the kind of activities that can occur in a multi-purpose room. It's very exciting. We have referees to control the crowd, and we have substitutes waiting to come in. Fitness is really key, both weight training and aerobic training. Yoga and dance. This is a yoga dance studio in one of our projects. The spatial hierarchy that I talked about, which I think is really critical, it's often, as I said before, difficult to achieve, but we really want to be able to create this open. It creates a tremendous amount of energy within the building. Also, it works particularly well now with the need for social distancing because we have a lot of open space. In this case, we have the entry on the left, the lobby reception. The reception desk is right behind, as if you were looking behind you. We have a monumental stair going up. You can see the classroom, lounge, and cafe. And in the middle there is what is a really key issue. We call it the information hub. Often we have a video screen that comes up with the latest issues that are going on in the center. This is another one. This is, let me see, this is the town of Walpole, multi-purpose room, visually connected to the lobby reception. You can see the information hub next to the main cafe. The cafe and library are backed up to each other with a double-sided fireplace. And we have the opportunity of going upstairs in this center. It's a large center, and it's a wide open access to the next level up. And that chair, by the way, on the right is for the veterans, and they have a display case of memorabilia. I talked a little bit about previewing spaces. It's really important to be able to provide windows into the various classrooms. A lot of our elders are quite cautious or shy, especially if they're new to the center, and being able to see people actively enjoying themselves in a classroom or a lecture is really key to getting them to be part of the group. Transparency is important. It helps bring in outside light. I do like to mention we bring in a lot of natural light. Natural light is really important for depression and keeping people bright and cheery, and that happens to be a skylight coming down from above. Game rooms, billiards, cards, and puzzles are really key. In this case, this is, I think, the town of Walpole. You can see the card tables to the right, one right in front, and a very active billiards group. And again, there are skylights coming down into this space as well as outdoor light. Teaching kitchen is, when we've been asked to provide these in a number of centers, these kitchens are really critical for nutritional aspects for elders. We like to give classes, especially if you lose a spouse and you're trying to cook on your own. We teach people how to cook a large amount of food, but break it up into nightly portions. And we help people understand how to balance their food. So it's an important teaching element, often part of a larger classroom. This is a rendering. I just like to put this up because it gives you an idea that when we render these projects, they actually end up looking like the rendering. This is the Long Meadow Senior Center, and you can get an idea that it's not quite finished. I think it'll be finished in about 3 weeks. We have North Andover Senior Center. It starts construction. We just had our first meeting. We're demoing 2 houses on the site. It's been a complicated project to get going because it was a private-public partnership, and there was a lot of little legal issues that get worked out. But there's 2 houses on the site that are being removed, and this center is being built, and it starts shortly. In Nantucket, this goes to fall meeting in 2021. And I always like to put this up. Yoko Ono states some people are old at 18, and some are young at 90. Time is a concept that we've created ourselves. And of course, age is of no importance unless you're cheese. Come on now, we get some humor here, don't we? No laughing? I can't hear anybody. I see Dan's laughing. Thanks, Dan. So thank you very much. And Dan, look at that, 16 minutes, not bad. Practice a lot. So I will quit out of this and open it up to your committee. Hopefully be able to answer some of the tricky questions that are coming up. Thank you for that time, by the way.
Very good. Thank you. That was a great presentation. I like some of the information that you provided. All right, so we will go directly to our questions from the committee. Unless somebody has any questions beforehand, we all set, ready to go? All right, Mr. Malorani, you're number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, great presentation. Thank you very much. Did your firm meet design timelines on the last 10 or so projects? If not, what were reasons for delays?
Well, first of all, I didn't mention it in the interview. We're advocates for elders. We only design right now senior centers. We've had good experience in the past. All our projects have been bid on time. They've all come in on budget. However, these are public bid projects, low bidder wins. I would be honest with you right out front. Long Meadow, we've had a lot of difficulties with the contractor. The town is about 4 or 5 months behind, but because of COVID, the town's not concerned about it. I am, but the town has been very relaxed about it. And I also, in these projects, let me see, Walpole, Wellesley, Belmont, and Long Meadow have all been on budget. In fact, what was amazing, just talked a little bit about money, is that in Long Meadow, we've had a very powerful leader on that group, and she's been able to raise almost $800,000. So every time I turn around, she's adding something new to the project. But they've all come in on budget. Thank you.
And on time, on budget and on time?
Yes, well, the time, or from the architect's viewpoint, yes, we've been on time, but from the contractors, there are issues that come up. And in this case, I think COVID has slowed us down. Go ahead.
Have you noticed any pattern of issues that would delay a project?
No, I think the main thing that delays projects is often my clients will raise money and want to add things to the project. Give you an idea, in Long Meadow, we had 2 pickleball courts. We now have 4. So that happens a lot. There's interesting issues that come up that are small time things, but are complicated. The elevator folks just decided, we were told on our last 3 projects, we don't want sump pumps in our elevator pits. Well, today they want them. So that was a surprise. But we have some of that stuff comes up, but that's not unusual in this process. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Teresa, number 2.
I put her to sleep.
Yeah. There you go.
How did the original cost estimate compare to the final cost estimate of your last similar project? And what led to the difference between estimate and actual?
Well, I tried to answer a little bit of that earlier, but to give you an idea, our budget for Long Meadow was $11.2 million. The bid came in at 10.8 million. We're finishing up at about 11.6 million, but about $400,000 of that was raised money that the town put into it. And we've stayed within our, we used our contingency. I think the errors and omissions by the architect, we're not perfect, ran just slightly under 1%. And we used a lot of our contingency to upgrade our FF&E on that site. Walpole also came in on budget, was finished on budget. We elected to reuse a lot of the contingency that was not used in FF&E and some site work that we did, additional site work. But that Wellesley came in on budget, and I have to reach back in my brain, but I know that Belmont came in on budget too. Belmont was a little bit late, and the reason for that is that that was during the real downturn, and our contractor, who did very high-end houses, thought he was building a nice private high-end house, and he never had stepped into the public sector with all the paperwork, and he got boggled up a bit. But that's kind of our story. Thank you.
All set. Jack?
Yes, hi, John. Jack Holloway here.
Hi, Jack.
What did your firm do to assure a quality product and workmanship?
Oh, well, we can make life pretty difficult for our contractors. First of all, I have a fabulous spec writer, very detailed. We adhere to the spec. A lot of my contractors don't read them too well. I'll give you an idea of just a minor thing. I just got an email from a contractor in Longmill saying, you don't have coat hooks in the handicap ADA bathrooms. Well, we do have them. We're able to point those out to them. We're very tight on our work. I'm not sure where you've seen some of the images, but our millwork is really great. We use we've learned a lesson from years ago that when these things get bid, we can bid in pretty top quality work and still end up with a similar bid if we would have slighted on that. So we bid with contingencies. We ride very hard. I don't know whether anybody's been able to see any of our projects, whether you've been to Wellesley or Walpole, but you'll see the finishes. Wellesley was all done in black American cherry. Walpole was done in clear select maple. Very nice work. And some of the things we do, to give you an idea, you can see some senior centers, a lot of architects misunderstand a senior center, what we like to call them active adult centers. They often put nursing home railings in these centers. I've seen a number of centers, some recent ones. We disguise those in the wainscoting. We have a really nice, elegant piece of wainscoting, and somebody who needs to study themselves can actually use that wainscoting as if it was a handrail. And disguising that and making this look acceptable to young seniors, yet still addressing older seniors is a big deal. Thanks. I wandered off subject. I apologize.
Can I ask you a little bit more on when you're talking about products? What about like your finishes on flooring and stuff like that? Is that something?
Well, that's one of the most key issues of all. First of all, our multi-purpose rooms are linoleum, and they're linoleum patterns. It's part of wayfinding. You maybe saw on some of the slides the patterns. A lot of people with occlusions in their eyesight find their way and move across a floor through contrasting patterns. Linoleum is really useful because number one, has, believe it or not, acoustical values. There's statistics out there that if you fall on VCT or ceramic flooring, you have about a 20% greater chance of breaking a bone. And of course, if you don't know this, the number one cause of accidental death among seniors is falling. Our carpet is no padding. It's a tight weave. And in fact, our project that we did in Lexington, Kentucky, we used a product called Flotex, which it's a tile, but it's actually, you can sit on it, it's warm, it's comfortable. It doesn't grab the shoes. It can be washed just like linoleum. So the patterns are really important. I think you saw some of those in my images, and you'll see them in our booklet. And then we do use some wood, but mostly on the platform stage and on the stairways up. And some of the flooring issues that you probably, I didn't point out, but our stairways all have edges to them that are dark. And the dark edge is a grit edge for gripping your shoe. And it also has a second piece that goes alongside it, which is a glow strip. So if the light for some reason is dim, I use these in my own stairs at home, you can see where the edge of the stair is. Knowing the edge of the stair is really important. I see a lot of senior centers where the stairs are all wood and they're all the same color. You can't see, for a lot of us, you cannot, especially where bifocals, you cannot see well. And those edges are really important. Thanks.
Mr. Bendel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, thank you for your presentation. The architect is the head of the design team. Can you tell us about your key staff and consultants for this project?
Well, two things. Number one, you're looking at the key staff. That's me. We're a small firm. Dan Arts is my right-hand man. And Barbie Arnold does a lot of our high-end rendering. Very, very skilled at that. We use only Revit and Lumion. Revit, if you're not familiar with it, it's a three-dimensional drawing program. Often in the past, up until recent, Revit was only found in very large firms because it's an expensive program, but we're completely fluent in Revit. We use Newforma for all our management work. We provide Newforma. The town doesn't have to provide it. The contractor doesn't have to provide it. The nice thing about Newforma, unlike some of the other project management things, is that Newforma doesn't go away. We can recall that stuff at any time, any year afterwards. And I attend all design meetings. I'm very, very heavy-handed in design. I attend all construction meetings. I've probably only missed one meeting over the last 16 months in Longmeadow. I deal with the contractors. I'm the one who disciplines them. My consultants have been with me for decades. Pete Timothy at A.M. Fogarty has been working for me for the last 40 years. First, it was his boss, Al Fogarty. Now it's Pete owns the firm. Jim DeVillis and Iman Zarim are been working all the way back to Belmont, which is about 10, 12 years ago. BAV has been working with us for at least 15 years. My spec writer's been with me since the beginning. I just hope he doesn't get too much older. He used to be chief spec writer for, I'm going to slip on the firm, Shepley Bullfinch, and he writes all of our specs. Very, very detailed. Who else did I forget? Structural engineers. We've been using FBRA, Foley, Buell, and Roberts. We have a great relationship with them. And they were our team member who brought us out of the wood world and into the steel world. Our last 3 projects have been steel, much more efficient, faster. We get poured concrete decks, which makes for a much more solid sound system through the building. And we no longer do wood trusses, we use steel trusses, and opens up our attic areas, are underneath the roof for all of our mechanical equipment. So we don't have to create large mechanical rooms. But you got me, you got Dan. Dan is my, he and I are our team members. And you could tell by our workload that one is just completing construction, one is just going into construction, and one has been designed and waiting for town meeting. And we are ready to go.
Interesting.
All set with that?
You get me. Unlike, to be honest with you, I'll throw in a little plug. The very large firms, you want the principal to show up and be kind of present, but the principal generally is not running the show. We run the show. I've been doing it for 43 years and I enjoy it. Public sector.
Can I ask the question, what would we do if something happens to you?
That's the same question Wellesley asked me 8 years ago. I play squash twice a week. I'm in extremely good shape. I'm a mere 73 years old. I'm not too worried. I plan on doing this for the next 4 or 5 years. And hopefully we'll have your project done long before that. But I did have a former partner, Michael Petrovic. He's more oriented towards the private sector, but he's always available if there should ever be a big problem. He's a licensed architect. And he was my partner for about 5 years. I trained him.
Very good.
But I don't intend to go anywhere, folks.
George,
Diane?
could I ask a question along
Sure.
these lines of
Absolutely.
this questioning here? In reading your proposal, I noticed, John, that you are quite involved with a lot of speaking engagements, and I'm looking in the background at all those plaques on the back of the wall. So
Uh-oh,
I know that you're up
more
to date.
educated.
You know, you're constantly involved in this evolution of change, and I've got a couple of years on you, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a big
You don't
pickleball.
look like it. You don't look like
Well, I'm a big pickleball player and a big gymnastics and at the gym. And I think this is the way the group is going. And let me tell you, I've gone against some of the 85-year-olds that are currently involved in the system, and they can beat me. Let me tell you, they can beat me. But I had
I'm a lifetime member of Pickleball America, so
Are you really?
I have my card. I could show it to you. It's in my wallet.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, when we build pickleball courts, we'll have you out there for the opening ceremonies.
All right.
In your buildings, have you ever made use of basements for other activities?
I'm a real negative person on basements for 2 reasons. One, they're just as expensive as your main floor. I mean, we have to ventilate them, we have to sprinkle them, we have to have the elevator down there, we have to have 2 means of egress, and they're below grade. And although now we can bring natural light into basements, we can bring them down through these solar tubes. There's actually another one that we've been flirting with. It's a fiber optic skylights. But I find basements below grade a bit depressing. I've actually taken over projects that were designed with basements, and we end up not doing the basements. And the reason for that is that more natural light, less expensive is great. So we like to push that. However, I'm going back in time. I don't think out of the 56 senior centers that I've worked on, we have not done a basement. Most of my clients have not asked for it. A couple of these sites have water table issues. We've got wetlands. Yeah, I think the soccer field and the town field both have very nearby water issues. So that would probably run into an issue with basements. I really liked, I know that the town hall might end up at that site, but the current senior center site has a great opportunity for what we call cut and fill, where you have a lower level that's completely accessible on grade and an upper level that could have the main entrance into it. We did the town of Ashland Senior Center has a cut and fill site where we built a large multi-purpose soccer field. We put all the little kids downstairs, not really downstairs, they had their own entrance, no parking. And the elders came in on up above with theirs, and then they shared up and down. And it worked out really nicely. Unfortunately, we hit an artesian well, which was a little tricky to deal with, a water table issue that we did not expect. I won't preclude basements, and certainly in the programming stage, we need to look at all options. 1 story, 2 stories, basement, 3 stories, whatever. We can't go up 3 stories with an A3 occupancy because of code issues, unless it's fire protected, which gets a little expensive, but that's an option.
The only reason I asked is I played bocce all summer with a woman who said in the winter, she went from Wilmington to the city of Everett to play bocce indoors in their basement.
Oh, cool.
And-
Love it.
and, it was an addition that the senior center there had made. And she drove from Wilmington all the way to Everett and, you know, was quite into the sport. And that was the
Well,
reason.
I
why
love that idea. That's very interesting. I'll tell you, in Longmeadow, we go indoors for our pickleball. We've created a 10,000 square foot gymnasium, which has a basketball court for kids and young adults after hours and on weekends, and for some seniors who like to pick up a game. But we have 3 pickleball courts inside, or a volleyball court. And we also have a running walking track. And the project we're working on in Tallahassee, Florida, we have 6 indoor pickleball courts. It gets a little hot down there. They don't like playing outside in the summer. So our pickleball courts they still have a couple outside for the cooler weather, but all 6 are in the gymnasium.
Wonderful. Okay, let me get to my question then. I have a question here for you. Wilmington has, as you know, has another building project running concurrently with this senior center. Explain how you would coordinate with the designer on that project and help build a consensus as to the best site location for each project. We might
Well,
have someone vying, you know.
Nifty question. We actually, in Walpole, our senior center was built in tandem with the town's police station. We worked very closely. In fact, the designer for the police station and ourselves worked together in a lot of the committee meetings discussing programming for each center, and they were built absolutely side by side. I think my building looks a little nicer, but that's, you know, architect's ego. In North Andover, the town chose to do a public-private partnership with a developer who lives in town, is building 146 units of affordable housing on the same site that we're building on. And we've worked very closely. In fact, they've asked their designer to pick up on our design partie, if you will, the exterior envelope of our building, to pick it up so we can match up closer. And they're building right next door. In fact, we're sharing the same entrance with them into the site. So we do work closely with other designers, and it's actually, if they're calm and relaxed people, they're very enjoyable. Did you get that?
There's going to be a lot of, you know, working together, some jockeying around going with site selection, which really I think is the top of the list first before we even get off the ground, and then find out if it's viable to be built on.
Yeah, no, you're. I know that there's a concurrent work on the town hall, and I think that we do need to. I need to work with the director and your committee. We need to get a handle on the program so we know what our footprint is. So when we look at these sites, that we make sure that we don't end up with a site that we all love and then end up with a program that really is problematic on that site. So it's kind of they go together, and we're very good at that. You know, and you mentioned that I do lecture around the country on this, and I always do the fall conference with Mass Council on Aging, which is held every fall except for this last one, which is because of COVID. And I've lectured in Washington, D.C. and in Chicago. I think that when I do those lectures, I learn a lot from the people who come. I got turned on to pickleball about 4 years ago. Bocce is a thing that's been around forever, and some communities love it. But what really counts right now for all of us is a strong committee who listens, with an architect who listens, and there's a lot of compromise and a lot of give and take as we try and resolve how this building is going to come together and the site. I'll be honest with you, looking at the sites, when I drove on 62, whoa, it's a busy road over there. Nice site though, but busy road. There are issues that we all have to think about.
Yeah. Well, there was a task committee that went around to several senior centers
Oh, really?
some renovated and some new.
Mhm.
And one of the last ones we saw was in Newburyport.
Oh, yeah, with Bill Sterling did that.
Bill Sterling, correct.
Good guy.
Correct. Correct. And very much like you, very much like you. I get the feeling from the way you're talking, and he gives talks and so on and so forth, and really
Yeah,
investigate.
he's at our conferences. He's a little older than I am.
Yes,
He's a
he
good
is.
guy. I've known Bill for he was the study architect for Wellesley.
He was.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. You answered my question. You had an excellent proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, on my question, knowing that Wilmington has these two projects going, is there anything about the site options or the two projects at the same time that really concerns you, or something we should be concerned about?
No, in fact, when I do a lot of presentations at town meetings when invited. And we often work together with the other architect if there's another project going on in town. We usually work together throughout that process. And I don't know, have you already selected your architect for town hall, or is that coming up?
No, we have not.
But I find almost all firms that I've dealt with have been very accommodating in the process. We're both doing our own thing, but we're doing it together on behalf of the town. And that process is a collaborative process.
You don't ever find like one firm tries to overshadow another, or we'll say egos get too big, or they prefer their product over the other.
Well, it was really interesting. The project I did down in Lexington, Kentucky, I was the senior, they refer to me as the elder consultant, and I did all the programming and all the planning, the building and the site planning. The local architect, Rick Ecklow, good guy, very bright, very powerful ego. I left the shell to him. And if you look at our proposal, I don't know whether Lexington was in our proposal, but it's very different from New England. It's very modern. It's about winning an award. But what I cared about was I got the right plan for the seniors. I got the right site plan, the right parking options, and I let him run loose on the envelope. I can deal with big egos. I don't let them get in the way. Right, Dan? Are you there? No, Dan's not there.
And the same with the site location. I mean, sometimes
they can go together if the site's right. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but you got a couple sites. I think. Nobody's going to give up town fields over at town hall, but I was looking at, it's 6.5 acres over at the existing senior center, and there's a park across the street, the new high schools. I drove over there the other day. It's a very large site. It's a very interesting site because it's sloped. There might even be an option to be together on it, like we did with the police station, the senior center, and Walpole on a much smaller site. So I don't know. That's part of the fun of this process is, for all of us to get educated how this works.
Great, thank you very much. Paul?
Let me turn my microphone on. What is something about senior center designs that your firm handles differently from others that would be advantageous to the town of Wilmington?
Well, I probably did not emphasize it much in my presentation, but one thing we discovered about 10 years ago, actually, in Belmont. Belmont was our first open plan center. We discovered that there is a whole lot of programming in these centers that are really work well in the open. Library and lounge. We create what we call a noisy synergy entry area with the reception information board. In fact, in Holyoke, which was a later version of this open plan, we have the cafe right smack at the front entrance, and all the people hang out with coffee, They all gab together, have a good time, and then they go to their classes wherever they may be. We've extended that further in Long Meadow by having the cafe not only at the front entry lobby area, but also to extend outside so that people can drop in for coffee, sit outside on a patio at the entrance, talk to friends that are coming and going, and maybe leave, not even enjoy the center itself. The other aspect that we worked on in this open plan is that we learned transparency is really crucial to the success of these buildings. The last 3 projects, we developed a new wall system, which I think you saw in one of our pictures.
Yep.
A lot of glass. It really helps people see what's going on. Especially if you have a really popular class and people are having a ball, you can see that action going on. So the transparency is critical. In a multi-purpose room, we like 2-story buildings because we like looking down on other program spaces. We often have our game. I think the game room I showed you in Walpole was on the 2nd floor, but it was open to the main lobby area as you come up the stairs.
Mhm.
Open plan. And then the last thing we've learned in the last 10 years is that no long hallways. One of the great barriers for elders who have mobility issues is standing at the end of a 150-foot long hallway. And I can tell you, there's a lot of senior centers out there with very long hallways. They even put them in their brochures, which shocks me, because hallways need to be at least 7 or 8 feet wide, because we have people with wheelchairs that got to move through there. We like them wide because we can hang. The other thing we've learned is we hang a lot of artwork. The artwork we like is artwork produced by seniors, or also artwork produced by community members who would like to show their photography or their oil paintings and watercolors from trips. The senior center is a community center where a lot of good things happen. And what neat thing about artwork on the walls when they're wide hallways, wide open spaces, is that they create a lot of community involvement. One of the neat things about Walpole is I came in and there were 8 absolutely drop dead, gorgeous, huge, I'm not sure what to call them. I'm sure they start out as watercolors. And I asked them, I said, wow, this stuff is really fabulous. It was the senior art class from the high school. And these were put up with their names on them, and the parents would come, grandparents would come and see them. They had an opening for the high school kids to come into the senior center. So those are the things we learned about. Open plan, no hallways, a lot of transparency.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask you one? Because you talk about 2nd floor. How about, ADA compliance? What do you do to access those 2nd floors? I did see stairs, but
We make these poor people crawl up those stairs. Actually, you probably didn't, I didn't point it out in my pictures. You might see it in our book. 2 things. Number one, there's always an elevator. Our elevators in our 2-story projects, our elevators right next door to the monumental stair. One of the great breakthroughs in Massachusetts code, an IBC overlay, is that we can have open stairways as our second means of egress out of a 2-story building, especially if it's non-combustible. So we have these wonderful, large, monumental, beautiful stairs. We use HDI railings. Our stairs themselves are no higher than 6 inches. 6 inches is the limit. And we did a study at the Holyoke Senior Center where 87% of anybody who went up to the game rooms and classrooms on the 2nd level and the fitness facility in the 2nd level, well, actually the fitness facility on the 1st level, they all went up the stairs because NCOA says 8 to 10 flights a day is critical for flexibility and endurance. And those that can't do, I like the dog, by the way, and those that can't do that will take the elevator. And the other thing I've talked about the stairs, besides being fully ADA compliant, that is we mid-landing, we have a window seat with cushions on it. And although most people don't stop at the window seat, but lots do stop, sit down and have a conversation with a friend. It's a good way to get out of the thick of things by sitting on the window seat. So from Belmont on, every time we did a two-story building, we had an intermediate window seat provided with really nice, comfortable cushions.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Teresa?
Yes. Have you had to exercise your errors and omissions policy in the past 10 years?
Never. Not once.
Good answer.
Thank goodness.
Greg Bundle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What changes in building HVAC designs or other elements of design do you believe should be made and changed from what we've learned from the current pandemic?
Well, two things. We're actually, Holyoke started pre-COVID. But we have since now are investigating two different items. There's been some of this stuff has been out on the market for a while. One is ultraviolet UV lighting in the ductwork. It actually, when air moves through there, the UV lighting helps destroy various viruses and bacteria, mostly bacteria. It's not quite as strong on viruses. The other one that has been looked at and we're considering using now in Longmeadow as an extra is ozone. I'm not a big fan of ozone for the elderly. For elders who have chronic issues, ozone, which is an O3 oxygen, you often smell it when there's a lightning storm. It smells great. It feels very fresh. They actually can create ozone emitters in the ductwork. I'd like to learn a little bit more about ozone and how it might affect a chronic illness amongst elders. But that's another one that we've been doing. The other issue too is that our stretch energy code requires us, if you follow it, to have ERVs, energy recovery. Thanks. I'm getting a little late in the game here. We've been looking at HEPA filters in those that we would change out weekly rather than a monthly filter change. That really, because we recycle the air, obviously those ERVs work, the summertime, we grab the cold air out of the air conditioning as it leaves the building. In the wintertime, we grab the heated air and put it back into the building. But those go through a heat wheel, a heat recovery wheel, and then we have a duct, our filter system. And just like the airlines now, they now are switching out their HEPA filters every flight, and often changes it. So those are the issues. The other issue too, other than HVAC, is the understanding that air movement is really critical, fresh, but also having this open plan allows people to manage social distancing a lot better. Give you an idea, a restaurant that used to hold 40 people can still seat 25 because we move our tables farther apart. I don't know about you, but I've been vaccinated. I still am cautious. I have my, I don't know where it is right now. I keep my little mask around. So we still want to be cautious. I'm hoping that we resolve this pandemic issue, but those are the things we've looked at: UV lighting, ozone, and HEPA filters.
All right, what changes have you seen in the past 5 to 10 years concerning the needs of seniors and how to accommodate those needs with new senior centers?
Well, I started doing senior centers about 38 years ago. There was no such thing as a fitness facility. We don't do them now without one. Fitness has really become critical. One of my senior centers, we had a golden ager who was 88 who competed in the Golden Age Olympics, won 2 gold medals. I mean, that's really critical. The other thing we found out is a lot more outdoor activities have become really important. Getting outside and patio areas. When we did the Wellesley Senior Center, I remember about the second week it was open, I was talking to a couple of folks that were out on the patio, and I said, "Oh, great, where do you live in Wellesley?" "Oh, we don't live in Wellesley. We live, in, I don't know, Weston or Wayland, but we so like being out here in this quiet patio where we can sit down and have a cup of coffee that we come all the way over here from Weston and Wayland." Outdoor is really critical. We discovered also for the elderly, this idea of transparency is really important. Especially, we do a couple things. Number one, senior centers 40 years ago looked a little bit like nursing facilities. Everybody thought, oh my God, these old folks. But we find the baby boomers are completely different. And by the way, I'm one of the first baby boomers. We're very different. We've been raised through a much better health system than what we had in the war years, and we were better educated. So we are more aware of nutrition, eating better. So the healthier seniors, we've begun designing our senior centers, disguising the solutions for the very elderly, such as wayfinding on the floor, the secret way of getting a handrail in the wainscoting, edges to the stairs, a lot of ADA. We also added in over the years a companion toilet. We discovered that if you're with your husband and you need assistance in the bathroom, I'm not going to come anymore because my husband has to come in with me in the ladies' room or into the men's room. So we have what we call companion toilets. I learned that about maybe 15 years ago, 16 years ago from one of my directors. And by the way, those companion toilets are way far away from the large bank of toilets. We also discovered that if we want elders, truly frail elders, to use our facility, which is critical for them, we need to be able to have what we call a short circuit bathroom. And we always have a handicap shower somewhere in our building with a bathroom. Those are some of the things we find. Lighting is also critical. Much higher levels of light and more variable lighting is really critical. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention, we did a center in Leicester maybe 22 years ago. And on opening day, I'm in the multi-purpose room, and this is before linoleum, and we had ceiling tiles, acoustical ceiling tiles, but they had a NCR, noise reduction coefficient, of about 0.6. We now use ceiling tiles that have a reduction of 0.95. And acoustical control, elders do not hear well with high frequency background noise. So we do a lot to reduce that high frequency background noise. Part of my lecture series.
George, could I follow up with one question there regarding some of the new, how to accommodate those needs with the new senior center? I know we're running a little bit late, but one of the things I want to commend our director here of the senior center is all the luncheons that she has continued to run for seniors. And she does it outside where they drive up and they pick up their luncheon. It has been as many as 85 to even 100 of those luncheons. And she and I talked about this, and as an add-on, we said, maybe you have a drive-through window at the kitchen instead of standing out there like at a McDonald's or one of the others, so that as the meals are prepared and given out, what are your thoughts on something like that? Have you ever heard of anything? Because those are the kinds of accommodations she's had to make during COVID.
Well, the joys of our business is learning something new. And you just said something new. It's very interesting. I'm actually intrigued by that. It's very, very interesting. When I came by the senior center last week, I want to commend on the fact that there was about 10 elders in chairs out just below the senior center having a grant. Those are the ones that were telling me where they'd like to have the senior center. But they were very nice. It was really interesting chatting with them. They were a little bit clueless about what's going on. I didn't tell them too much, but I said I was looking at it. I designed a lot of senior centers. I'd love to hear their thoughts. And One of them said I went to elementary school in that building, you know, the
Mhm.
school. Another one said, oh, I was in school at the town hall. There's a lot of institutional knowledge, which we like to express in these centers. We often have display areas where people can display. In Chelsea was a big immigrant city, and we had flags in the main entryway of every single senior background from what part of Europe or the rest of the world they came from. We had 60 flags hanging. That kind of institutional knowledge is really critical. In fact, what's really fun is in the Holyoke, we designed, there used to be the high school on that site, burned down. When we designed the new building, we knocked off the look of the high school. We couldn't do it in masonry, it wasn't in the budget, but we knocked it off. And early on, the seniors were saying, oh, gee, it looks a lot like the school we went to. That was a real plus for us. We felt very good about that we could help them see their youth, if you will.
Okay, I don't want to cut you short, but I do want
Sure, go
to
ahead.
give Senior Director a chance to ask her question. Terry, go ahead.
Hi, Don. You have been very refreshing because you're really picking up on some keys that are so important for elders to have in the senior center. You know, after conducting a survey with the senior population that we did last year, it was evident that there's a need for additional space to provide for all our programmatic needs, which also include the outdoor space and activities. You touched on this quite a bit through your discussion, but can you explain how this would be incorporated in your design? I know you have in some ways, but additionally with, you know, also due to COVID, it's been even more apparent needed of space. And you've talked about the open concept of coming into the senior center at first, some of your designs, but even more now, do you, especially with outdoor space, anything that you would like to add with what you've said previously?
Well, do you know Kathy Bowler?
Yes, I do.
MPOA.
Yep.
She was a director of the Holyoke Senior Center when we built that and designed it with her. We had quite a discussion about COVID and how these senior centers are working. And she had brought up to me, and you can certainly talk to her about this, but she said, what's really great right now is this open planning, because it allows us to have people in the building who can stay up. There's a lot of senior centers out there with 4-foot wide hallways. You can't socially distance on a hallway like that, or having a hallway at all. So when you go into the Holyoke Senior Center, you never walk in a hallway. Even though there's classrooms, we designed it to be a lot of the programming, game room, lounge, library, cafe, those are all open spaces. And by integrating those in with the closed spaces, classrooms, etc., you can get to those spaces without having to bump elbows with other people. So she called me up one day and said, you know, John, that open plan really helps us with social distancing. So that's one key issue. The other key issue is I'm really big on outdoor patio spaces. And I really, only in the last 2 centers have we been able to integrate the performance platform in the multi-purpose room to connect with the patio outside with its own performance space, so you can have outside. So people can sit out on a large patio and be well spread out. One thing I probably didn't mention is a little bit about patios. Those patios are, we actually do them out of recycled tires, or the bricks. They're all, it's a green thing, they're soft. You don't fall on, I never ever use ceramic in a senior center. Not in the bathrooms. We go with a seamless vinyl cushion floor in the bathrooms. So if you fall, you're not falling on a hard surface. So I know that hopefully answered some of your question. I started to get off track again, and I know we're running out of time, and I apologize.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there, just so we have a little bit of break time in between our next presentation. Is there anything that anybody needed to, John, to elaborate on? I think that was a great presentation. You did a lot of detail, a lot of explanation, a lot of thoughtful process in your designs, obviously. So does anybody have anything for John?
I will say one thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there somebody else speaking?
Can I ask a question?
Go
Uh-oh.
ahead.
Yeah.
John, you're just referring to your consultants, your mechanical and electrical are different. And structural are different and civil are different. Are you going to be doing the coordination of all of those trades?
You mean different from our firm?
Yeah, I mean, they're all different.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
And it's not, it's not like one MEP firm like GGD or,
yeah. Actually, VAV works with O'Brien or Owl Engineering. They're two entities, but they work together. They've been really good on my last project. I really think Judy is excellent. My civil engineers, I've been working with them for 10 years. We understand each other. And you probably are well aware from all your experiences out there, the most difficult thing in these buildings is MEP.
coordination.
Yeah, coordination.
You know,
And
we're going to be doing reviews of your work, and
oh yeah,
coordination is important to me.
we actually require full coordination drawings by the contractor based on the engineering, but we also do the same thing with our engineers. And if you get Griffin Electric, you know, who biggest guys in the business, they'll try their darndest to try and show you how they get an extra. But we've been able to deal with Griffin really well because our specs and our drawings are really tight. I tell you, the last thing I want to do is dealing in the field with problems that are related to my drawings. So we spend a lot of time on these drawings. And we do have issues. I mean, I don't think there's an architect out there that doesn't. And if I told you I didn't, you shouldn't think about hiring me. We all work that way. I did want to say one, I'll close it up. I'll be quiet. I had something on mind, but then Dan interrupted me. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you
Oh, I
very much.
know. I raised my hand. I remember what it was. I'd be very happy if you wish, if it would make any difference, to provide this presentation through New Forma. We can send it, if I had email, I could send it to Dan, he could distribute it. Very happy to send it out. I normally, when I come to an in-person interview, I'll bring that with me and hand it out. But this is a new game. I'd be very happy to provide it. You can ask for it anytime.
I'd appreciate it, John, just for the meeting minutes. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate great presentation.
Yes.
Thank you for being
Thank you very much.
a very considerate committee. I didn't get any really ugly, tricky questions, so I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And good luck. It's a tough decision for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll
Thank you.
take, we have our next round coming on in 5 minutes. So if you would like to take a quick break, come right back and so we get started.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Well, Jeff, one down.
Yes, yeah. It was very interesting.
Very interesting. I learned a lot about how specific senior centers have to be. It's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and I saw some of that in some of the proposals is, architects who clearly seem to have an understanding of the particularities associated with a senior center. You know, it's different than, other types of buildings, and it needs to be treated that way.
Right. It's not just a box.
Right.
No, it's not, but a lot's going to boil down to programming too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I think that the task group that was formed before we even came before the Board of Selectmen, we went to about 5 different facilities. And I remember going into one that was renovated, and the bottom line from the director was, go big and go new. She said, don't renovate. And after she gave us the tour, we knew exactly what she meant. But I have got to tell you, of all of them that I had seen, the Newburyport one, which was the one that he mentioned by Sterling, this gentleman talked just like the way the director spoke to us about their architect Sterling. And if you'll remember, Sterling went in with one of the other people that submitted the proposal, EGA, and I was very disappointed why he didn't submit on his own. And the only thing I could think of is what this gentleman said tonight. He's about 76 years old. And I think he probably said, you know, it's time for me to work my way out. Otherwise, he would have submitted on his own. But this gentleman did exactly what Sterling did, in that he worked from the programs. He developed the programmatic needs first and designed around that. And in Newburyport, they were going to use an old school and renovated it, and then said, nope, not worth it, just not worth it, threw it down and did a 2-story. And the best part about that building was they added 1,500 square feet on the end, which they rent out to their WCTV place, okay? And should they need any growth in their administration office, they just knock down the director's office and push it out. So if they have to hire more people, another thoughtful thing. But those bathrooms that he talked about, the companion bathrooms, he had 2 on the first floor and 2 on the second floor. So that if a companion brought someone in there, that's the bathroom, in addition to the regular facility bathrooms. And the flooring, very important, no wood, a lot of that vinyl. So I would have thought I was talking to the guy that built Newburyport. Very, very interesting. And he went out there.
You're gonna see 4 entirely different approaches.
Okay, we can't
All right.
wait.
All right, we have our
Okay.
next one coming up. John, are they ready to come in?
Letting them in now.
Good evening. My name is George Hooper. I am the chairman of the Senior Center Building Committee. I'm going to have my members introduce themselves to you. Diane?
I'm Diane Allen, member of the Permanent Building Committee, and I was on the Master Facilities Plan.
Paul?
Hey, I'm Paul Melorani, Permanent Building Committee, and also on the Master Facilities Planning Committee. 49 years in town, Diane. I've did the math.
You 49? I've
49.
got you 53 for me.
Okay.
Okay.
You're still not a townie.
Teresa?
My name is Teresa Manganelli. I am Vice Chair of the Finance Committee, and I also served on the Facilities Master Plan.
Jack?
Jack Holloway, the Permanent Building Committee, and also the Master Plan.
Greg?
Good evening, Greg Bendel. I have the good fortune of serving on the Wilmington Board of Selectmen, and I'm the new guy in town, only been here 37 years.
Terry? You're muted, Terry.
Hello, hello. Hi, I'm Terry Marciello, Director of Elderly Services here in town for 23 years, and I'm a youngin'. I've only been in this town for 28 years.
Also with us, we have the town manager, Jeff Hull. John O'Neill is our IT director, and he is hosting this Zoom format for us. So tonight, we will give you time to introduce your staff and do a presentation. And we have a series of questions we'd like to ask you in the end. So you can take it away.
Excellent. Actually, my first slide is an introduction. So if you want us to begin from there, just take off. Or my name's Curtis Edge, and I'm a principal at Kalo and Beanick. And with me tonight is John McMillan, another one of the principals, and Rachel Loeffler, a principal from the Berkshire Design Group, who's our landscape architect and civil engineer.
Good evening.
So are you ready for us to begin, or?
Yeah, go ahead. You can go right into it. You can share your screen.
I'm gonna time you at 20 minutes, Curtis.
We think that we're right at 20 minutes or 19 or 20 and 2 seconds. So we'll just begin from there. Thank you.
1 minute warning. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. As I mentioned, my name's Curtis Edge, and I'm one of the 4 principals at Kalo and Beanick. We're a mid-sized firm in the Springfield area, and we like to work as a team with personal involvement of a principal all the way through the project. This isn't exactly how I like to present the groups, but we're going to make it work tonight. Presenting with me tonight is another one of the principals, John McMillan. He's prepared to immediately begin the site analysis process should our team have the honor of being selected. And also Rachel, who I introduced a moment ago. The image in the background is actually a project in Richmond. We're working with Rachel's firm, and also your OPM P3. CBA was initially selected to design their new library. Then the project was expanded to include a new town hall. When a study by another firm identified the cost to renovate their present town hall facility. And as Richmond is a more rural setting, it's now become a community center with space to accommodate senior programming. That project is going to town meeting in May. Every project is unique. These particular photos are from a recently completed South End Community Center project in Springfield. It's modern, it's light-filled. Here's an image of a more traditional building. It's one of our earlier senior centers in Agawam, very traditional. We've been designing senior centers for many, many years, but programming and services they offer has evolved immensely over time. I don't have to tell you. I got ahead of myself there. Okay. This is a new facility that we completed in West Boylston about 2 years ago. It's traditional home-like structure, spaces to socialize, for fitness, to provide health services, to provide arts and music and craft spaces, very flexible. You can see that there's a commercial kitchen in this particular facility to not only accommodate their programs at the facility, but to facilitate the remote distribution. Meals on Wheels is the common term, I guess, depending on the community. Here's a large multi-purpose space. It can be subdivided as necessary. It's used for dining, and it's also used for fitness and other programs. It's all about flexibility. We like to design our facilities to be comfortable, like a second home, where people want to be. This project is a senior center we're actually working on right now. P3 is also the OPM there. It's a long, tight, linear site between a driveway and wetlands. We were selected last spring to update the feasibility study work that was performed by another firm. And we were out to bid by the fall in spite of the challenges that COVID presented to us. So, you know, it was an aggressive schedule, and we were able to meet it. And I think to their benefit, especially with the bid prices, the way that they've been escalating in the last few months. It's currently under construction. It's expected to be done by the end of the year. The program required almost doubling the size of the existing facility, and it's near town rec fields, recreation fields and amenities, similar to one of your sites, your town hall site, not unlike. It has trails, it has pickleball courts, that's the hot button, but there's a lot of parking and everything. We began with a schematic design based on the revised program. We worked very hard to make the new building compatible with the existing center. Because of the tight site constraints, it required a 2-story addition. That's not our first choice if we don't have to, but given the site constraints there, that's the way we had to go. And here were some of the images that were developed during the schematic design phase. Then as we progressed on, we got into the design development phase, and you can see some of the 3D modeling, the BIM modeling program that we use, which allows us to work with the team to coordinate systems, make sure everything fits to avoid change orders down the road. Then we went to the construction documents phase and then out to bid last fall. This is actually a rendering, computer rendering of a Starbucks style cafe that we incorporated into the facility. Gives them the ability to go outside to a porch area right by the main entrance, grab a coffee, go outside in the morning, watch people come and go. There is a commercial kitchen in the original building, and they use that for regular dining events and Meals on Wheels program they offer. As I mentioned earlier, senior centers have evolved in response to changing demographics and program offerings. They need to be active spaces, or they don't need to be, they are active spaces. Multi-generational is preferred. Don't think of them or even suggest that it's just a place to sit around and play bingo. That day is gone, long gone. Socialization and fitness, very important, very popular. And there's also a need for spaces for health and wellness and nutrition. Education, that's important. And that can consist of anything from elder law concerns or counseling on diabetes and high blood pressure awareness to a TED talk on whatever the topic might be. The design needs to be flexible, vibrant, safe, with good lighting and acoustics. And I'm not going to go down item by item on this particular screen. You can see what I'm talking about. You're all familiar with the needs of your facility and your community. So at the moment, I'm not going to get into all the guidelines and statistics or rules of thumbs. Your senior population is expected to increase 37% over the next 15 years. I love this picture. It's what we're striving to achieve and why we do what we do. Here's a very active senior center in Lexington, Kentucky, which I visited 3-4 years ago. It's a non-traditional design, but it incorporates native materials. There's an outdoor cafe space, not unlike what we did in Marshfield, although this is a little more contemporary. You can sit near the main entrance. You can enjoy a coffee with your friends in the morning or wait for a ride. It's light, it's airy, it's filled with color. It's a fun place to be. And there's places throughout the facility where you might pull off and work on a puzzle or read a book, but not pull off so far as to not be part of the action, because that's why you're there. If you want to be alone, you can stay at home, but people come to socialize and have opportunities. Here's an image, obviously pre-COVID, of their dining facility. It's a multi-purpose room. It's used for dining right off not unlike our West Boylston facility where the kitchen is adjacent to it. And there's some performing areas. It was very busy this particular day because they had programs going on for a Veterans Day celebration. So everybody was out and you can see how packed it is. There are flexible, light-filled program spaces for art, music, sewing, all kinds of activities. It's all about flexibility. And there's opportunity for group fitness classes or less structured opportunities as well. So With that, I'm going to flip it over to Rachel and let her talk.
Yeah, just as Chris was talking about like, activities and wonderful sense of community that happens inside of the senior center, we're aware that the exterior, especially now with COVID, as there's more pressure to see how many elements of programming can be moved outside, how important those outdoor spaces can be to the sense of community and sense of place for the center. Today, you guys are using your outdoor space as well, as small as they are. Here's a picture of the bocce taking place on site. Next slide. And caught in action, Tai Chi classes happening in the parking lot, really using that space well. I believe I heard that the classes used to be inside, but now with COVID, they're outside. But since the site is so small, that space is asked to also provide circulation and parking. And given the orientation of the drive and the building, it's a safety concern with sight lines. But that's understandable too, given that you've got conservation area at the back and steep grades on the other side of the building. We've worked with Curtis and others on several senior centers. This is an example from one in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and we used a variety of plantings on site to help facilitate more outdoor programming spaces. Movies and yoga were considered. Gardening was a really big component. The community actually was really interested in their gardening on site also. So, and over time, there's political pressure to not be called a senior center, but be called a community center because they saw it to be more intergenerational. So we integrated stormwater rain gardens into the project site. That's the lowest image on the left, is a rain garden that serves as a gateway into the community center. And then there were members of the community that were master gardeners, and they took over the right of way in front of the building, which I think turned out really, really well. So if you walk on the sidewalk in front of the building, you can walk through their vision and of a natural garden. Next slide. And some of the sites we see that you guys have been thinking about and are adjacent. There's one in particular adjacent to pickleball courts, and Peter in our office is a member of the pickleball society, and he drives around with a pickleball gear in the back of his car, just in case he can find somebody else and a space to play. And then one of the reasons why I'm a landscape architect and I'm invested in bringing wonderful outdoor spaces to people is that we all know intuitively how good it can feel to be outdoors, but there are also studies that have come out that show that 5 minutes in the landscape can reduce your blood pressure, your heart rate, your cortisol levels. And recent studies have shown that if you spend an hour amongst trees every week, you can boost your immune system for up to a week after. So our outdoor spaces are also part of our healthy way of being in the world. And we don't need a lot of space to make that happen. That can be achieved through careful selection of plant materials and thinking about seeding areas, as well as connections to more active recreation.
All right, thank you, Rachel. We'd like to talk about the site selection process. So one of the first tasks of this project is the site assessment of 4 or more town sites. This slide is an example of a site selection process we provided for a new police facility at the University of Massachusetts Amherst campus, which is a very large campus. There were 8 potential sites that were analyzed. From that initial assessment, we identified 3 preferred sites for further analysis, after which an optimal site was selected. This is the summary page of the matrix we developed for the qualitative analysis of the 8 potential sites. This was made relatively easy to display and read. This is an example of a similar site analysis we performed for a senior center in Groton, Massachusetts, where we identified possible site constraints and differing site criteria for the senior center. This site shows the typical weighted assessment for a quantitative matrix for one such site. Initially, there's a raw score provided to the criteria for each particular site. That score is then multiplied or weighted by an importance factor. An importance factor is where you differentiate the importance of the different criteria. For instance, maybe a historic district is not of the same importance as having a steeply sloping site. So things may affect costs and such like that. This analysis is meant to be a very iterative process with multiple reviews by the committee, the OPM, the users, the team basically. And this is an opportunity where we would reach out to the town hall team and try to achieve a consensus with our analysis and their analysis, so we could, come to a town with a consensus approach to both projects. For the UMass project, after we have the preferred site determined, we arrange the various program elements into a schematic floor plan, and then we provide a test fit of that design or that plan on the preferred site to make sure that that site works with that particular program. This again, of course, is a very iterative process with reviews by the team, the users, the committee, the OPM, and the townspeople. This is a map of Wilmington, obviously showing the 4 identified sites, along with the library, which was also listed in the town's master plan. Since most of the town's population is mostly west of I-93, the 4 proposed sites are properly located there. And obviously, we prefer a senior center site to have a reasonable commute for all seniors. This is a view of the existing Buzzell Senior Center site near the Town Common and the Swain School site. This location was considered under options M1 and M3 of the master plan. This is a bi-level site with shared parking with the high school. Some previous observations of the site include its somewhat limited size because of the high school parking lot and the possible adjacent conservation lands to the east. Because the senior center is up the hill from the Swain Green and the Town Common, there's limited parking available for the senior center that'd be on grade. There's also limited space for an addition under option M1 of the master plan. And an addition would also trigger an extensive and possibly costly renovation of the facility to a facility that's a fairly tired 90-year-old structure and may not be well suited for a future modern senior center. Either of the M3 options shown could be constructed while the existing senior center remained in operation, but probably would result in 2-story solutions, which may not be the preferred senior center option. And given the modest size of the site, there'd also be limited opportunities for outdoor amenities. Next slide is a view of the existing town hall site. This location was considered under option M2 of the master plan. This site is located in the residential area of town near Silver Lake at the end of a quiet dead-end street. The site is adjacent to an existing active and passive recreation area. This would offer intergenerational recreational opportunities. Depending on placement, it might also be possible to construct a senior center on the site while the existing town hall remains in operation. We have to remember that per the master plan, there's approximately 165 parking spaces that may be required if you have a 250-person gathering space. So we have to make sure we accommodate the parking needs of the senior center and obviously the temporary parking needs of the town hall during the construction process. This is a view of the town-owned unoccupied site on Main Street adjacent to St. Dorothy. This site is an undeveloped and relatively flat site. This site is kind of an island between Main Street and Glen Road. The site currently doesn't have a lot of amenities on site, and it's essentially across the road on Glen Road from the town hall site, and its own recreational trails and fields in that location. Construction of the site could occur without impacting any other project or any other existing facility uses. While Main Street seems fairly busy, there may be an opportunity to provide an additional access from the site from Glen Road, which would help connectivity between the Glen Road site and the town hall recreational areas. There's also an opportunity on this site for senior housing, which would, if the senior center were sited on the town hall site, it would be advantageous to have the senior center in proximity to the senior housing. This is a view of the Whitefield School site on Middlesex Ave. School has already been removed from the site and the site is unoccupied. This site is slightly further from the population center than the other sites. It's on a relatively busy street across from the commercial shopping area and a busy registry of motor vehicles. The site is fairly flat and doesn't offer a lot of current amenities. Similar to St. Dorothy, construction could begin without impacting other projects or any other existing facilities. This site may offer some reasonable public transportation options.
So I imagine we're getting close to the 20 minutes. We're trying to respect your timeline. So just want to summarize quickly, why the CBA team? I think you've seen that we have a good amount of experience and understanding of senior center programming, of site analysis, of design and construction. We've been doing public construction in Massachusetts for more than 65 years. And we like to be respectful of the community that we're doing our work in. Not our work in, our work with. We like to become part of the community. It's important for us as principals. We like to stay involved, and we like to provide design solutions that we say are reasoned, rational, and responsive. And the only way we can do that is to be working hand in hand with you. We don't come in and preach and tell you what you have to have. We want to know what you want to have and what you need to have, and we can apply then the guidelines and the matrices towards that. We provide sustainable design practices in every project to create environments that are efficient, energy efficient, pleasant, and enjoyable to use. And that's what we want in a senior facility and every project. And as I said, our solutions are practical, they're cost effective, not only to build, but to operate. I think P3 can attest to our good documentation, tight bidding, attention to detail, adherence to schedules, low change order ratios, all of those things that lead to a successful project. And we're credible and effective in assisting at public meetings and presentations. We are I'll say, comfortable presenting to the community. This isn't exactly the best format that I like, but we're learning to adapt. So with that being said, we've got to be close to 20 minutes, Dan. Like I said, I love that slide. It just, to me, it tells me everything, and that's what we want. So we've got some other slides and other information that we may get into after this regarding some of the statistics for your project based on our understanding of the RFP. But we'll turn it over for Q&A, I guess, at this point.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for a great presentation. And I just want to ask any of the committee members, do they have any questions or need any clarification before we get into the questions on the presentation they saw? All right, seeing no questions, we'll go right to the questions. First one is from Paul Millerani.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. That's a great presentation. So my question is, did your firm meet design timelines for, say, the last 10 or so projects? And if not, what were some of the reasons why you weren't able to meet the timeline?
Short answer, yes. We have, I can't think of a project that has been behind in the delivery that has been requested.
We also get involved in fast track projects done faster than your normal project, and those have been delivered on time per request.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Teresa.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. How did the original cost estimate compare to the final cost of your last similar project? And what would have led to the difference between the estimate and an actual?
Well, we were very close, actually, going back to the example we used for West Boylston. John, you want to weigh in on the cost estimate there?
Yes. The project came in, I'm going to say, was 1 or 2% less than our estimate. And then through change orders, there's maybe a 0.5% added. It was a difficult site. There was a former site of a former school, and we were told that it was clean. Borings came up clean. And then when they put a shovel in the ground, they found some old foundations. They found some oily dirt. But through all that, we maintained the project and the project budget. And the town is extremely pleased with the result.
Yeah, I would say that that's when you do have difficulties, our experience has been that it's been site related. A lot of things that are not necessarily directly related to the building itself. In the case of the Marshfield project that we're currently under construction, on schedule, under budget, they appropriately funded the project. I mean, that's important too. You can't come in and say, all right, I have $10, but I want to do $20 worth of work. So they were prepared as a community there, but we've been able to adhere to their timeline and budget. And in fact, there's a little bit of money right now where the client is enhancing, while we're at it, can we repave that portion of the lot, or can we re-roof the old building while we're at it? And we're able to work with them to do that.
Yeah, and I can add to site costs, we can be creative. So the most recent project currently under construction is under budget and on schedule in our office at the center school in Greenfield. And the site had a lot of ledge. We had contingency for that, but we ended up looking at breaking up the ledge and using it as the gravel base for many of our drive areas. So we actually saved money and used the ledge as a resource for the project. So there may be, depending on what the conditions are, there may be opportunities like that.
Okay, great, thank you. Jack, you're next.
Yes. What did your firm do to assure a quality product and workmanship?
Well, as I mentioned, all of our projects retain a principal from beginning to end. It's not handed off to someone else to perform the work. We like to have I'll call it a boots on the ground presence on all of our projects. We want to be there. We want to see what's going on from beginning to end. And even afterward, we like to come back afterward and see what worked and what might be improved for our next project. And we can always do lessons learned. There's always something you can improve on. That's my theory. And I have to also learn to appreciate that things can be pretty good too. You don't always have to beat yourself up, but we like to stay involved from the beginning to the end. I mentioned the computer software that we're using nowadays. It allows us and the consultant team to share information and see if there are any conflicts. And it's pretty standard in the workplace now, these tools. So it's helpful.
Jack, nothing takes the place of review time. Sitting in front of the drawings, reviewing the specs, and having peers review that. That brings a lot of information back to you. And through a iterative review process in our own company, we vet our own projects.
Thank you very much.
Greg, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you folks for your presentation. My question is, the architect is the head of the design team. Tell us about your key staff and consultants for the project. Obviously, we've met your principals, but could you tell us about your key staff and consultants for this project?
Well, John is going to be a key participant here right in the beginning from a site perspective. And I mentioned Rachel. Our cost estimator, Pete Timothy, we've been working with for 30 plus years. He does work for many architects. as well as contractors. So he has a pulse of what's going on with respect to pricing. And when we work with him, he can also ask questions if there's any ambiguity in our drawings. So I think that's very important so that we can head that off before it gets to bid day. As for our MEP team, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, we're utilizing CES Consulting Engineering Services. They have an office in the Boston area as well as in Middletown, Connecticut, and several other offices. But we've been doing work with them for many, many years. They're a capable group. Structural engineer is from the Worcester area, and we've been working with them since, well, I would say 35 years, maybe 30. It's a team that has worked together many, many times over, and they're not only working for us. You know, they're not stale. They're seeing other firms work and bringing it to the table and seeing how different folks do things. If you only look at yourself all the time, you may be missing opportunities. So that we like to study what other people are doing. We like to study trends. We like to, be aware and of what the industry trends are.
On our own staff, we have a job captain of about 20 years experience and an interior designer of probably about 20, 25 years. I don't want to say anything more. I think she doesn't like to talk about her age, but 20 plus years. And we have a CAD person, a CAD guru, who knows the ins and outs of the Revit and AutoCAD programs, used to give seminars on it. So he's our go-to for all of the CAD drawings and very sophisticated drawings that we can produce.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
Yes. Great presentation, guys, and excellent proposal here. My question is, Wilmington has another building project running at the same time, as this, the town hall / school administration building. And I'd like to know how you would coordinate with the designer on that particular project and help build a consensus as to the best site location for each project.
That's
we talked about maybe where the existing town hall is and maybe building in back of it, but or St. Dorothy's or whatever. So mostly help build a consensus as to the best site location. I think that's going to be your number one start off kicking point here with the committee.
We agree. It's a great question. We'd like to do you a favor and apply for the town hall project. That way it's fairly easy for us to coordinate with the other team.
Yes.
But if that were not to occur, certainly we've worked with our architects. I don't know which architect may or may not be selected, but I would like to bring them in during that assessment period because we are trying to apply subjective criteria and create an objective result. So if we can, the more people involved in that process, the OPM, the senior building committee, any townspeople that attend the hearings or the meetings, and the other architectural firm, the more people attend that and provide their point of view, the more likely we are to achieve a consensus. And as long as we remain reasonable, and I think most architects are pretty reasonable, and we are your advocate, and we're the advocate for the town. The other architect would be an advocate for the town. We're both trying to get the town what it needs and what it wants. I think working towards that, I don't think there'd be too much of an issue. I think we'd get along very well, and I think we'd achieve a consensus. I think the master plan that you have right now is a very good product and can be developed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Without really expressing a final opinion on that. Historically, a town hall wants to be on the town green and places like that. And programmatically, in this is my opinion, please don't shoot me. It would seem that the activities that a senior center deserves perhaps might be provided on a site, better provided on a site other than its present one. But I'm not saying that, we should move the senior center, but if you're looking at the bigger picture, and John mentioned the other two sites, well, those are easy solutions. Yeah, okay, we'll just put it here. There's nothing on that site, and that's the easy solution for now. But I think we have to take a long-term view at this. Some of our other projects, you work around existing constraints that are going to be gone in 5 years, or school projects. Well, that school's going to be gone. Well, so you design around a school that's already there, and in the end, people say, "Well, wait a minute, why did you put it over there?" Because they don't remember what was there adjacent to it. And it really isn't the school that I was talking about. It was a football field in that particular project. So you're designing around a football field that was marginal, and then 10 years from now, that football field isn't going to be there, and they're going to say, "Well, why did you design over in that corner of the site?" So it's probably a overly long answer to, the easy solution is drop it on St. Dorothy's, drop it on the Middlesex Avenue site, and sure, that's an easy short-term solution. But let's look at the long term, and it may be a phased project. One gets done before the other, and we can't tell you which one is more preferential. You're going to have to make those decisions locally, but we can help make good decisions. And with whoever's doing the senior centers, right, we've collaborated on many projects where active construction on adjacent sites, and we learn to adapt. We understand, and we come to a consensus. But it's your call, not ours.
We've worked on about 16 town hall projects, so it would be easier if you selected us.
And I will say that we can vet sites fairly quickly, so we're very flexible with whatever direction you want us to take. One client last year had us vet, I'm not exaggerating, 120 sites. So we got pretty quick at vetting things and going through wetlands and all the different criteria, so we can help you out.
Well, the town has a very good GIS mapping system. And that's why the proposal said these 4 sites, but that wasn't conclusive. There may be another site that popped up, but I think that the town is looking long-term to have, we really don't have a center in Wilmington. We don't have, and I think that where the town hall probably should be is more near the common area, and create a like a New England town. But that's not to say that the senior center can't go there in its place. So, but we need to build that consensus, and that's why it's important to work with both architects to get that feeling across to help us in making the final decision for the site selection. Thank you.
Great. My question kind of hinges on all that. You're kind of touching all around it. Do you have any concerns where we have these multiple projects trying to move forward with them, and the options that we do have for the sites that people are trying to jockey for one preferred site over the other? If just say we don't get a BOGO deal with you guys, we ended up going with somebody else. All right.
All right. In case that were to occur, there's not much concerns, actually. I think in all of the site assessments and previous projects we've done, there's been similar issues, and none of those issues ended up damaging the process or creating something that we didn't eventually control and didn't eventually achieve a preferred solution. So I really do think that through a qualitative and quantitative analysis of the sites, selection of criteria, weighing of the criteria, that we can achieve a fairly objective review. I think the more objective you make it, the more people are willing to, believe in it. Also, you've got to get participation of the town early on in the project. I think we didn't talk about the marketing of this project, but you do have to go for town meeting approval. So the marketing of this project, the getting the town behind it, you got to keep that in mind in every phase of the project, because it doesn't go forward if the town doesn't vote the money. So, during this process, you got to keep the town informed along the way so that they agree with you when you reach your results.
But you can't, as I said, you can't make these decisions in a vacuum. If we were doing the senior center and someone else, it has to be a collaborative process, because, I'm going to vie for my site and John's going to vie for his site. And, really it's your site. It's your community, even though we want to be part of it. You have to see what fits in the bigger picture. And we really can't speak necessarily to the political aspects that sometimes influence decisions.
Paul, you're next.
So tell us something about senior center designs that your firm handles differently from other firms that would be advantageous to the town of Wilmington.
I review and I look at other senior centers beside our own, and I'm not surprised, or there's not a lot of differing qualities to them. I think from my own point of view, if not ignoring anybody else's senior center, I particularly love daylighting, making the space bright and light, particularly in the early morning hours. You want to make the design you're sort of in the hospitality design business with a senior center, because you're really trying to attract feet. You're trying to get people there, trying to get them in early morning. Cafe models work very well. And then you bring them in, they can take part in programs. So you're really trying to bring people in. You really want people that are maybe not socializing well enough to come to your senior center. So you want to create socialization opportunities that may be in small groups and large groups, so people can have their choice of how they want to socialize. If you have an opportunity, you may be touring some senior centers. Go to West Boylston on a sunny morning. I mean, literally, you might need sunglasses. It's very bright, cheerful. Great reviews for it. Another senior center is in Agawam. That's a few years ago, but enormously successful. They've got, you got to be careful. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And that project suffers from everybody coming at once. So we've been very fortunate to have some well-received projects.
And
I gave the example of that project in Lexington. I'm always out and I'm looking at other folks' work. It wasn't our project. My family just loves to go on vacation with me, because they're visiting all kinds of senior centers or schools and say, "Come on, Dad," But we can learn. And one of the examples is that cafe I mentioned that we implemented in Marshfield. The program that was done by another architect initially was basically a sink and about 8 foot of counter space, and it was. If you're lucky, it was a Holiday Inn Express where you could put toast on the counter and people would come up and grab something, and that's what the initial feasibility study program showed us. Well, we learned fairly quickly by talking to the owner, but that's not what they had in mind. And I had been to other sites where I call it the Starbucks model, where you can come and grab a coffee and go outside, and it's more of a cafe. It's no longer go up to the roll-up window where there's a commercial kitchen and we'll have coffee sitting out. That's great to have that commercial kitchen, but that's not what people. And in that case, that kitchen was always active cooking for Meals on Wheels to head out the door. So it wasn't a fun place to be. So we've created a fun place near the entry where you can draw people in. And as John said, take your coffee outside and sit in the sunlight. So anyway, Rachel, you were going to say something. I
I
saw
was
you.
gonna say, and also for the long term, we can help with some of the long term energy consumption speculation. So thinking about how your building can be sustainable. Our firm has worked on multiple net zero projects in New England, some of the first in New England. So if you want to, balance your energy consumption or your water usage, we can help you with that with solar or geothermal or even gray water systems that might be a little advanced. And then in addition, if you want to look at the cost, your carbon footprint for construction, that is something that we've been able to do with site costs and building costs also there's a new app for that, where during the process, if that's something you're interested in, we can quickly calculate how much embodied carbon is associated with the construction, and then also the plants on the site or the areas that you're conserving and how long it'll take to sequester that. Sometimes it becomes something that you can really brag about on the project. So
I would think stormwater management is also a high concern, something we want to pay attention to in Wilmington as well.
and pollinators and habitat.
Excellent. Thank you all. Great answers.
Teresa?
Yes, have you had to exercise your errors and omissions policy within the past 10 years?
Once.
What-
Well, it was I just lost, hold on a second. It was a project, it was actually related to a parking garage. It was a CM at risk project. There has been no judgment per se on that issue. They're still fighting. It's so the answer is yes once, and there are reasons why. And I'm happy the owner's not going to suffer, and I think that everyone is pretty comfortable in their position, and I think the contractor is probably a little less comfortable in his position. But in the age of litigation, after 65 years, yep, we finally, unfortunately, got to call the insurance company.
But that's once in 65, so that was pretty good.
And how long ago was that event?
Oh, that project was constructed 9-10 years ago.
Okay. And do you expect to have a judgment, or?
I wouldn't say there's going to be a judgment, but the insurance companies will sit together and try and carve it up. I suspect, that's just the way they work. But it's not something that will negatively impact our performance, and it really wasn't our work, but it was under our umbrella because it was a parking garage attached to the building. It wasn't the building, but the architect gets the credit or the blame, whichever you want to call it.
Okay, thank you.
Greg?
Thank you. What changes in the building HVAC designs or other design elements do you believe will be or should be made from what we've learned during the current pandemic?
Well, we've begun to electrify everything to get it on the grid for future energy savings. As far as COVID and trying to improve the interior environment, you increase the filter to MERV 13, requires you to increase the fan power to obviously push the air through the more difficult filters. You can add, although we haven't done it recently, ultraviolet stations to reduce the amount of bacteria and foreign objects in the airstream. The location of diffusers and registers also help in the way of where these airflows flow across traffic can be improved. Certainly from the point of view of increasing, contrary to energy conservation, would be increasing outdoor air percentages, which would diminish and dilute indoor air pollutants. So there's many ways to consider this. There's life cycle savings to consider. You know, you may spend more for equipment, you may have less maintenance, or you may spend less for equipment and increase your maintenance costs in some of these ways. But the philosophies are just being developed right now. And in practice, there's very few in practice right now, particularly for COVID.
Yeah, so yeah, there is an impact to operating costs when you start to increase these higher filtering levels, and so you know it's a balancing act to look at. But besides HVAC, we've gone to things like touchless controls on now. It's always been around for plumbing fixtures for a long period of time, but even on door operators, you don't even hit the opener anymore. It's a proximity reader, basically. You wave your hand and it opens up, and those types of things that are in response to the concern of COVID. Hopefully we'll soon get past these, but I think we'll also learn some new best practices that can be implemented as part of the process.
Okay. What changes have you seen over the past 5 to 10 years concerning the seniors and their needs, and how would you accommodate these needs with a new senior center?
Well, I kind of jokingly say that the seniors are getting younger, but maybe that's because I'm now part of the group. So it's just a matter of perspective, I suppose. But activity, you know, as Rachel mentioned, you know, it's an understanding or health. There's so many, you know, mental health, physical health, wellness, an awareness of nutrition, eating right, and they've been there for a while, but people are starting to be a little bit more to pay attention a little bit more to those types of things. And just the quality of the spaces. You can build really nice spaces that are fun to be in, and they can have a traditional flavor, or they might not have a traditional flavor. But so it's just so many opportunities. When I was talking to Terry recently, I was able to pick her brain a little bit. I said, so tell me, is it Elderly Services Center or is it the Senior Center? And I was trying to differentiate, and it all kind of falls under the same umbrella there. But you know, what is this? And it is. It goes back to my statement. It's no longer just a place of, you know, long ago where my grandmother used to go and play bingo. Or spend some time watching what was it? Not Wheel of Fortune, but Bob Barker or whatever it is. You know, The Price is Right, or so. You know, it's not that. It's, you know, people are being stimulated. You know, in their education, in mind. There's just so many different, and it depends on the community too. So I don't know. I probably beat that answer to death and never answered it in the first place. But
George, one possible answer would be, as the next generation of seniors arrive, they're more technology savvy. So particularly in the recent couple of years, or at least seems like a couple of years, the recent year of COVID, where we've had to do all these virtual meetings and virtual programs, we may be seeing more of that as the seniors become more technology capable. So you may be seeing more in the way of remote programs that you could do. It's not a great way to socialize. You prefer to have them face to face, but in the absence of this, you could increase enrollment by having more virtual programs. You can get you have classrooms, you have technology programs, you can teach technology, if you have a technology background, it's easier to teach technology. It's harder to teach technology to an 80-year-old who, doesn't understand a cell phone yet. But I think technology is one of the ways where senior center programming is going to change.
John, don't sell it short, because your point about not operating the cell phone. My mother is in an assisted living community now, and she's been locked down for a long-term care facility for a year. And it's kind of tough to communicate. You can't go in, you can't go out. She can't operate her cell phone, but we got her a portal. My nephew got her a portal, and she can just touch a button, and now she's popped up on the screen better than I can do. So maybe that's a kick against me, but the technology is becoming easier to use, more friendly, and it's an opportunity.
And we've also seen some bridging programs that try to match seniors with preschool or elementary school children for mentoring and tutoring, and bringing both parties getting much out of each other, and making a strong connection and relationship.
Great, thank you. All right, our next question is from Terry Marciello, our Senior Director.
Hi, yes, I'm Terry. Thank you for dropping by, as you did last week. And you kind of, like a few things that you said kind of segued into the next question, as in after conducting a survey with the seniors, it became very evident that there's a need of additional space, especially through also learning through this COVID experience, of providing more space for our programmatic needs for the programs that we have, but also needing to incorporate that, Rachel, as you have been speaking a little bit about the outdoors. So please explain how this will be incorporated in the design you foresee for Wilmington.
Sure. We'll work, Curtis, John, and myself and my team, we will work with you to identify the spatial needs of each of those activities and anything else you might be thinking of as like a big brainstorm. And then we can help figure out how many of those activities can happen overlapping on a space, and kind of help you figure out how to spatially organize them on the site, almost like an event planning diagram to scale. And then we can work with you there too, then to define those edges and transitions and think about how they connect inside and out, and really make the design work from a functional level first, and then make it more of an aesthetic approach in the end.
And then you have to support those outside activities with storage spaces, for equipment, access from the appropriate parts of the building into those areas, so you have some control of who's out there. So multiple opportunities. Am I getting feedback? I'm sorry.
And Terry, I don't know that a tiki bar qualifies as outside space. I heard that the other day when I was there. Some of the folks were making that request. And
yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Tiki bar, yeah.
That's a real story.
The tiki bar is down by the pool.
Yeah.
All right, very last question. Jack, do you have that in front of you?
Yes. What makes your firm different from all the others?
Well, I like to say personal attention. We're not going to hand off. It's not going to be, obviously I'm not the marketing group that's going to come and sing and dance really well. We're here to work with you. We take a personal interest, and it's not only got our firm's name on it, it's got my name on it. And that to me is we like to spend the time to make it right. And anybody can crunch numbers, I suppose, and there are different design philosophies, but I think that we like to work as a team. You know, we're not a huge firm, but we're not a small firm either. We're big enough to get the job done. You know, we have the resources, we have the teammates to do it, and they're qualified and proven. But we're small enough to pay personal attention.
I think we prepare very practical solutions, very cost-effective solutions. And I think part of our process, part of our responsibility in keeping everybody with the same expectations is providing a lot of communication, keeping you up to date with what we're doing, getting feedback. As I mentioned probably a few times, what we do, we consider to be a very iterative process. We move forward a little bit, we review it with you, other parts of the team. Eventually, we are here just to make recommendations, offer solutions, and give you opportunities to make decisions yourself. So, I mean, this should be a project that everybody enjoys. The process should be a process that everybody enjoys. We love what we do, and I think that, you know, we bring to the table good opportunities for you.
And I'll add, we've spent a lot of time talking about this at Berkshire Design Group as we're as new leadership is emerging. And one thing that ties us together, and I think also with Halo and Being It, is that we are here to serve the community. We value community, and we value building and working with communities to build spaces that strengthen connections within your community. And that's what we're dedicating our lives to, and that's what we want to see happen with your town.
Thank you.
Okay, well, great. Any committee members have any last questions or follow-up that they need to explain? No, seeing none. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Great presentation and showing us showing interest in the town of Wilmington. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying awake this late.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Not that old yet.
I have one question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The 14,000 square feet that was identified by your master plan. And, you know, as I look at some of the metrics, and I know there's got to be a reason how that was selected, but it looks statistically low if you're just looking at it just from a number crunching perspective. And so, I've got slides where I sit and analyze it, and I promised John I wasn't going to, put everybody to sleep of, benchmark communities and total population, whether it's for now or for 10 years from now. And we see what your projected senior population is going to be. But so I'll get away from those slides. I won't bore you, but how was that number established?
George, I remember specifically, unless you want to go answer it, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Diane. You start.
I remember Stephen Cecil there. He went on the lower side.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, he was very specific about being the minimum. It really should be larger. Now, he also did a lot of takeoffs and cost estimating, but he really believed that that was on the low end, and probably when we really got into the facility planning of this, that it was going to be much larger due to the increase in the population.
Right, he did exactly that. He did state that the growth of the senior population, he was kind of underestimating it and was being conservative on that aspect of it.
Correct.
So if and that drove the budget, or at least the perceived budget, do you envision that might change, or do you envision that we need to stay to the 14,000 square feet? And maybe we don't know that. It's
Right. We don't know that at this point. That's where it's going to come out in our study.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Anybody else? Well, good night. Thank you
No,
very
sorry.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, folks.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda was approval of minutes. Hoping everybody got their copy of the minutes. So we have the October 19th, October 27th, and the March 15th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to take them up individually, or you want to take them all at once?
If I don't have any questions on them, I will take them all up at once. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Greg
I'll
Bender.
second that.
Second, Diane Allen.
Greg made the motion, Diane second.
Correct. And I'll take a roll call vote on that. Teresa?
Yes.
Yes. Terry Marciello?
Yes.
Jack Holloway?
Yes.
Paul Malorani?
Yes.
And George Hooper? That's a yes, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comments. John, do we have anybody out there?
We do not.
We do not, so no public comment.
Oh,
All right, so just a reminder that tomorrow night when we come on, there's we're going right into the interview. It starts at 6 o'clock. I believe that's Dietz. So try to be on time. Do I have any questions before I entertain the last motion?
On time is early.
Exactly. We've had that conversation, John. And I also want to thank John O'Neill for all the hard work that he puts in.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Not
you,
just
John.
this, but everyone he does. I know.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
John.
John.
But I'm blushing.
All right, so if I have nothing else, I'd entertain one last motion.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a
Hold
second?
on. Who made the motion?
Paul Malorani made the motion. Who second? Do I have a second?
Teresa.
I'll second
Teresa
it.
Manganelli.
Teresa Manganelli.
All right, we'll go back to the roll call. Terry Marciello?
Yes.
Yes. Greg Bendel?
Yes.
Diane Allen?
Yes.
Jack Holloway?
Yes.
And I, George Hooper, is a yes. All right, good night, everybody. Thanks.
I'll give you a
all-
yes on that too for the roll call.
Hey,
Yeah.
Glad you made the motion, didn't you?
Terry,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Terry,
Yes.
can I get your number to talk to you?
Sure. Yep. 978
Yeah,
57
sorry, say that again?
657
Yeah,
7595.
thank you. I'm gonna give you a call in the morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
You
everyone.
And
Have a good night, everyone.
Good job.
see you all tomorrow night.
Get some sleep, Greg.
I'll try.
Yeah,
Congratulations
Looks pretty
again.
good for a new day.
yeah, he does look good for a new dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.